life can be hard, and often it's how we cope with the challenges that we face. A lot of the time it comes down to procrastinating. We all have 24 hours to a day. We waste time. I do it myself sometimes. You can overthink, overanalyze before you know it, the day gets away from you. And, life passes us by. Now, usually it just starts with one moment, it continues on to another, and it gets progressively bad or progressively good. But sometimes people can make our life challenging. And I think, like I say, life can get hard enough as it is without complications. And yet, some people go out of their way to try to make others' lives a misery and make it even harder than it has to be. And I just think, how cruel. How cruel people can be. It's actually crazy, isn't it? So I was reflecting upon my own life, thinking about all the complications I've had. How much is self-imposed? How much was someone else going out their way to cause such misery and chaos? And how many people have been disappointing? But then which ones have been truly bad? Like, who's been truly cruel? And immediately, two people come to mind. But I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, so I'm trying to go through my mind. Like, has anyone else been perhaps worse and I haven't given them the credit they deserve? But no. It's definitely these two. Which one was worse than the other? So effectively, it's a mother and daughter dynamic. Was the mother worse than the daughter? So effectively, one pulls the strings, the other listens and does as directed. But which one is held more accountable? Because effectively, it's the daughter that ends up having to decide and take out, and the actions are the ones that have a direct consequence upon me. So which one's more cruel? Obviously, we have to take accountability for our actions. So you would argue it's the daughter, because if they choose different lives, the lives maybe don't have such a negative impact. But the one pulling the strings, of course, if they was never doing so, it wouldn't be like this. I was going to do my best, try not to make it clear who these people are, but I think as I maybe told this, it's going to be really hard not to. Not that I care one way or another, in all honesty. It's I always say that people are held accountable. You do something in life, even if you become a good person later, you still did that then, and we can only draw upon that moment. So, I don't know. Maybe they've changed their ways since then. Maybe they've become better people. Hopefully, that's the whole point of the journey in life, isn't it? We heal, we grow, we overcome, we gain experience and wisdom, and hopefully put it all together and we evolve. But there's still like collateral damage along the way. So people may have stories about me, and maybe I've been their worst nightmare. I'm sure in their examples, these people are involved. I'm sure to them, I'm probably their worst nightmare. Because I don't just roll over and stay silent. I talk about my trauma. I talk about the challenges I overcome. And they're a big part of my story, unfortunately. I wish they weren't. So when I think of my nightmares, do I think of my financial issues where it's been hard, the jobs I've left, all the things that most people overcome, most the challenges most people endure throughout life. Some people have far more significant challenges than the mundane and the most apparent. And that's where they come in. They literally, between them, tried to destroy me. They tried to ruin my character. They tried to ruin my morale. I have no doubt they wanted me to end my life. Now, whether they admit it is up to them. Sequence of events. You could argue there's another person involved as well that goes beyond. A new partner. They were unhinged too. Probably still unhinged now. To each their own. I don't care. So there's so much that happened, and it's just this pocket of people that just wasted so many years of my life. Regarding the daughter, my ex, they were going through certain things in their life. I did my best to help them. It's part of my growth, my healing journey, is to realize that it's not for me to heal everybody. Stop looking for those damsel in distresses, the ones that you feel really, they could, with a bit of encouragement and support, they could elevate their lives. You effectively put your life on hold for them. I'm not doing that anymore. I learned that lesson quite harsh. That was a harsh lesson for sure. But effectively, they just bring you down, completely drain your energy, and then make you feel worthless later after you've sacrificed so much for them. That was a nice feeling. Kudos to that. Then, I think there's obviously going to be nuances within this for me to try and remember, which I'm not going to go through all of it. I'm just trying to point out the fact that we all encounter challenges in life, and it's just sad. I think that sometimes life's like heavy enough that we encounter people that try to compound that misery. Like I said, I think even without those things, we still have to navigate life, and it's not simple. So why people have to be so cruel is beyond me. So I saw the rest of my life with this person. Yes, there's ups and downs, but I'm always prepared to put in the work. Where it went wrong, I don't know. I have no idea. So they decided to leave. It was their decision that they're going to leave. As they were leaving, but before all this, there's all little tidbits, little bit of informations. They did say at one point, there's so much they want to say, but it's too late. And I was like, well, say it. And they wouldn't say it. So, I mean, I don't care now. If it still lingers in their mind that, there's so much he didn't, that's your own tough shit. If you ain't going to say it when someone actually asks, if you can, I don't think about that. I'm just referring to it here. If it weighs on their mind to this day, that's their own fault. Don't try and hold on to something to act like, to hold something over someone. It's like, but yeah, that was their decision to leave. But the way in which they decided to go about it was the crazy part. So there were warning signs beforehand, and I've talked about this in my books, the Father-Daughter series. They're just not imaged here. There was things that was going to be put in place. For instance, we was going to split the custody of our daughter. For instance, like I asked our daughter when it was getting like into a negative space who she wants to live with. It was just a fair question. Who would you like to? If you had to, she chose me. Now I don't manipulate. People can think what they want. I wouldn't do that to my daughter. It was just a fair question. She chose me. I felt it would be good for her to spend time with everybody really fairly. So I said, what about 1 week with your mum, 1 week with me? She loved the idea. I relayed it to her mother. It was fair for everyone. That's what was going to happen. Then we agreed we would do, we'd go for a meal once a month as a family still, But if you're in relationships, it's just us. It just keeps a bit of normality for us, That was agreed. Great. In that situation, it's the best we could, muster. So then imagine my surprise. It wasn't long later that she was, I don't want to go too far, all the little things that were happening. But she was leaving weekends to go, apparently spend time with her cousin. This is all like intermingled between is this, are we still together? We're not still together. It wasn't really clear in this period. So she's going to a cousin, who apparently only person who understands them. And then one day takes them to her mother's for a few days. And I was like, okay, because we need some time apart. And she takes my daughter out of school, blocks my phone number, and changes our life forever. Now, knowing full well the connection and relationship I have with my daughter, she's like my world. And I'm her world. She'd already chosen to live with me. But didn't care about that, did they? As long as they get what they want. So what shifted all this to make it happen so swiftly? Only they know. I mean, what I will say is, as we went through family court later on, after family court, a new person moved in with them, who was apparently just a friend. Still together now, just a friend, I guess. The whole thing's a joke. Isn't it? I hate liars. Anyway, connect the dots one way or another with that, can't you? Why everything went so shit pretty quick. But to build that life that they wanted, it was best to get me out of the picture. So let's try to ruin his morale. Let's accuse him of different things so his life becomes worthless. And then maybe he'll do something to himself. Big statement for me to make, isn't it? But when you're living it, that's what they were planning. Except my character's too strong. Even on my knees, I'll still crawl. Not gonna happen, mate. Ain't gonna happen. So they relocated the other end of the country because it's where this person lives. Make it as hard for me as possible. Completely isolate me from my daughter. And that's where the family court come in. And I was relentless. But it was super cruel because every time they could stop, prevent contact, make up a lie, they lied. It's where mother comes in. If you go back before she left, a few months before, they were having secret meetings at her mother's home with some healthcare professionals because my ex-partner was seeing healthcare professionals, which I actually supported her with. So anyway, they were coming up with all sorts of ideas of how they're going to proceed with things. This was all coming out in the court documents. So, yeah, she pulled a lot of strings. So when me and my daughter finally get in a contact re-established, bear in mind, I feel like a criminal at this point. So I'm probably glossing over certain things because I'm forgetting it as I try to go forward with the rest of it. But it's often easy to dismiss how you felt in a moment when everything you're doing is being criticized, your character, who you are, how you've treated people, your intentions. Every little thing's under a microscope now because I've been accused of emotional abuse. What a cruel thing to accuse someone of. Why would you do that? It lets you go into a refuge so you can get immediate support. They will help rehouse you. Where are you trying to be rehoused? Are you trying to be rehoused locally to where you, like, near your family, where you feel safe? No, I'm going up north. I'm going as far away as possible. Oh, you're that scared? Interesting, because you weren't scared the day before. Like, this is, you know what I mean? Like, I've got this history of messages. You're my rock. You're for support. She went through a very challenging period, just like maybe a year or so before. And I'm messaging, like, stay with your mum for a few days, see how it goes. Just have time away, get yourself back. No, I want to be with you. How is that me coercing someone? You know, where's the emotional abuse? Where's the history of this emotional abuse? Where's the manipulation? Prove it. So we go through family court for a year. Again, I'm probably glossing over because it's hard to remember, like, recite all without going through my books and the history of everything that happens. But let's get to the very end of family court. Year and a half, constant stop-start relationship with my daughter. Every time she's happy and we're getting something established, boom, let's come up, let's make another accusation. Let's say this happened when it didn't happen. I follow the rules. I'm like, for me, that's so important. I would never ever risk any of that to risk the relationship with my daughter. So if I'm ordered to agree something like return my daughter. Don't talk about this. I won't talk about that. I'm not here to mess about. I'm very long-term planning. They're very short-term planning. So their chaotic behavior isn't my chaotic behavior. I was going to say something there. Something about the end. I just remembered I was going to say the end of family call. Oh, I can't remember where I was going now. Yeah. So imagine accusing someone of emotional abuse for the best part of 18 months, nearly 2 years. And everybody has treated me a bit distant, you know. It's quite, I think my character's becoming clearer as time goes on. Like, the judge is less frosty with me, still holds me accountable for certain things. You know, he started becoming skeptical of my ex as things going on. You could see by the way his mannerisms were towards her. Healthcare providers, they weren't believing anything she was saying. They were just like, none of it adds up. There's nothing here to say that. There's no history before or the way you'll behave. Anything. We've had nothing. Schools, there's been no issues. It's just nothing. Literally nothing. Just her word against my word. And yet we've got this far when it should have been challenged earlier, but it's all about stages. So we get to the end of family call, and it's all right. Okay, now you need to show what it is your issue is with me. Like, what is what are you terrified of me about? What is the problem? Because I was like, yeah, I'm curious because we've got this far. I still don't know what I did wrong. Like, what have I actually done? And of course, you have to prove it. But I'm just as curious about what the accusation is, let alone the evidence. What's the truth? Because I know the truth. Like, so what are you saying I did? And effectively, it all just come down to the fact that apparently I headbutted her. She had to hide for a week or so, and something else. And I was like, where does this all shit come from? Like, what are you making up? Like, this is ridiculous. I can't remember if by that time I had messages or not, but it was just so outrageous. It's just so ridiculous. The whole process of that. Where's the police report? where's the evidence of all this? Where's anything of anything? And you had nothing. It was just a stupid statement to make, just to try to validate something. So in counter to that, I had massive load of messages, like the messages between us. There was one actually specifically between us, because sometimes we did have arguments, and they literally said in the message, I'll go to the police and accuse you of something. And I was like, well, that's not, why would you do that? Because that's not true. Because I can. If you're gonna make me feel bad, then I'm gonna make you, you know. And I thought, and that was the evidence. That was part of my evidence. Like, she's already freaking said she would lie about something like that. She's already shown that she would lie. She's had the intent. But yeah, these people have been my biggest nightmare in my life. There'd be nothing now. You know, I think in certain periods of our life, they have a presence. They have significance because of where you are at your life and where it's impacting your life. Now, I couldn't give a shit about these people 1 inch. If they had an opinion on me, it'd be so irrelevant. It's ridiculous. Because I've moved on. I've grown beyond their nonsense. It's just coming from very weak, narrow-minded people who posture themselves as strong and resilient. It's just pointless to me, you know? These are very weak people who have to try to ruin people's lives. I don't talk about this to try to hurt anybody in reaction, although if it hurts them, it hurts them. I do it to try to raise awareness of it, because I know there's going to be other people who suffered similarly to me, but people that may be struggling to find a way out of it. It's easy to look on and think, you're never going to make yourself out of this because it's like your life's lost meaning. Maybe it's lost meaning for a moment. Just let it play out a little bit. Have the strength to let it play out a little bit, because lies have to be challenged and tested. So you can allow that window, because they will be held accountable at some point, doesn't it? Because it just stands to reason. Now, because we was doing family court, it didn't serve the court any really interest to pursue it any deeper, like in terms of repercussions, because there's freaking slander, there's what's perjury, all this shit. If that was a criminal court, they'd be in a world of shit because they lied their ass off. It's family court. It doesn't serve our daughter, her going to prison, for instance, you know, or something like that. So they don't really punish you for it enough, which I think there'll be some level of punishment, though, because it's ridiculous. You're ruining people's lives. You're lying so heavily with no repercussion. It was outlandish. It was crazy. What she wanted was us to have 2 hours together. That's the relationship she wanted. She wanted it in a contact center. At the very beginning, it would cost an absolute fortune for a contact center. She literally wanted us around a very observed building, like in a room, monitored, because she was terrified of the truth coming out of what she's done. So she'd rather we had this artificial life. Now, maybe her life has improved since. Maybe her mindset has improved since. But that's still what she put us through. She literally reduced our relationship, or at least tried to reduce our relationship, to being observed, like we're freaking being monitored, like a science experiment. Almost like I'm the criminal, and you have to leave in a certain order, and the doors are locked. Are you for real? A few weeks or months before that, you was leaving weekends. I had our daughter. If anything, when have you been tested alone with her? You know, it's crazy. Crazy. Now, a lot happened during family court, and an awful lot happened after family court. You know, there have been arguments between us, so I know I've upset them too. They're very manipulative. They find ways to make you bite, and that's what they've always done. So they were triggering me constantly for years after. Everything they can just to get in my head, try and make my life difficult. They wanted me to be poor. They wanted me never to work. They wanted to be able to ridicule me. They didn't want me moving on in my life. These are the people I've had in my life, and these are the people I've outgrown completely. Now, you can forgive on some level. You could argue they didn't know better. Of course they knew better. You could say their mindset was weak, so they do weak-minded things. I'd say that's true. They're easily manipulated, or clearly. You know, manipulate each side. Now, when I said there was a third person involved, her partner, he was a manipulative piece of shit as well, because he would actually go onto social media. I think personally, I can't be sure, but I think he's tried hacking my social media accounts, because someone kept trying to log in to my social media around this time. I kept getting alerts through my email. And I thought, who is trying to get into my account, you sad, pathetic piece of shit? That's what I was thinking. Like, who is this lame moron? And then they made posts on social media because I saw it. And it was for, again, these people, fake accounts. They can't dare put their name to it. Look at me. I put my name to everything. They use fake names. They use fake accounts. And they were saying that how I'm an abuser and I'm all this and I'm all that. And they were literally using my real name. What did I do? I contacted the police because that's a step too far. I don't reveal people's names. I'm not asking people to just go and attack people in the street. I'm not asking people to do anything. I'm not inciting something. I'm just taking facts to show people what I've been through and hopefully give them the strength to overcome it. But also make sure this shit doesn't happen anymore. If everybody shies away and hides and doesn't tell their story, then how the hell does the world change? But these people, they just got no self-control. They lack intelligence. They always wanted to challenge me. They wanted to keep me small. They wanted to always seem superior and me inferior. But I'm too intelligent for their shit. And I always knew how far you can push it as well. You know, I don't cross that line. They crossed it all the time. So I was asked by the police, is this something you would want to push further? Like, for instance, gather evidence and take it to court. And I said, well, actually, at the moment, I'd rather just see if they calm down. So then I messaged my ex and just told her, look, this is going to be serious if you don't control him. And I know it come from you because the things he was saying was something maybe we'd exchanged in an email or a text message. So they're all culpable. All these unhinged lunatics between themselves. They've got no freaking emotional intelligence. They've got no self-control. Everything's reactive, instinctive. And these are the cretins that I've had at a significant period of my life. You know. And it's through that you gain the character. If I can overcome these numbskulls, then I can overcome anything in my life. You know, you think of all the challenges you come up against financially. Okay, I've had the financial persecution. I've had all that issue. I've had the insecurity like at home in terms of your home life and all these sort of things. I've been through everything, which is why I can talk upon it. I draw upon the experience. If you're asking me about my biggest challenge in life, it was these. I'm trying not to swear right now. It was these people literally tried to drag me to my lowest ebb in life and still kept trying to even just keep jabbing at me. I've already lost my daughter. She wanted to come home to me. I fought through family court. It comes so close. A couple of times it comes so close to her coming home. I was in tears. I was genuinely in tears in court at the very end. And I was upset a lot of the way through. But when I broke down in tears, it was knowing that I can't make her dreams come true. You know how hard it is to have no power at all over the quality of life of your child? To have that taken away from you. And you know they're going to suffer irreparably for it. They're going to lose all hope in life. That their voice doesn't hold any weight. And they're prisoners to a circumstance that they didn't ask for. That's what's coming over me. I wasn't crying for me, I was crying for her. And since then, I've had to do everything I can in my power to make her strong, resilient. Do not dim that light. Don't let anyone make you feel small. You know, and just keep believing in yourself. And if you've got toxicity around you, just learn from it. And that's what I've always done with her. Learn from every circumstance. If someone makes you feel small, it's because they're weak in their own heart. It's nothing to do with you. And that's what I've done. I've empowered her. So she watches people. She monitors situations. She's incredibly intelligent. And that's how I treat this situation. It's a score. It's a learning episode for a life. And you become a powerhouse one day. But that could have buried her. And yet she's the sweetest, kindest person I know. She didn't deserve this life. And sometimes me talking on it actually comes very hard because I know it can affect her life. But like I say to her, sometimes some of the things I do, unfortunately, it's just big. It's bigger than us because there's too many people. There's too many people it could help one day. So, unfortunately, there's a consequence to that. You know, we could hide in the shadows, but it won't help anybody. So yeah, I just want to show people that, you know, we all encounter something. There's a challenge for all of us. You could be in an abusive, toxic relationship. You could all sorts of things. It's like we have to remove ourselves from it. We have to clear our name. You've just got to keep believing in yourself. Because people who end up judging you are people that don't know you at all. They gain an image based on what they want to see or what someone's showing them. And you can do that for anyone, can't you? But at the end of the day, we know who we are. So I'm not going to let anybody tell me I'm this or I'm that when I'm not. I can't change how someone else thinks about me. But then again, it doesn't become my issue, does it? Because what's that got to do with me? You want to see me that way, see me that way. If you want to believe a lie, believe a lie. I can't change that. But I know the life I've lived. I know what I've overcome. And I know I've always done the best I can in a given situation. The reality is they are incredibly toxic people. So they can't understand someone being kind. They can't understand someone being fair because they're not fair. I made so many offers throughout family court and even after family court to be amicable, to be fair, to stop all this, and just get along. They never, ever accepted it. They always made it more, they always escalated it instead. And I can never understand that. I was thinking, what the hell goes on in their head? But it obviously comes down to the fact that they couldn't trust it because they wouldn't behave that way. So they thought you was playing games. I was never playing games. Why would I play games? And that was their own downfall because we didn't need to get this deep into situations. It's crazy to me. One of the crazy parts is very early in court proceedings. Throughout court proceedings, I wasn't allowed near her. She made it seem like she was too scared in public. It was quite crazy. So I always had to have someone accompanying me to keep her safe. So she travels to my hometown and we had to meet at a train station. Now, I was supposed to do the exchange with her friend. I get a phone call. Can we talk? It's the first time I've heard from her since this all happened. We're about 4 or 5 months in. I think I may have that time frames wrong, but about that. And I've already been accused of this and that. We've had the court proceedings start. We've had the documents to say I'm all this. She's terrified of me. Can we talk? I was like, that caught me off guard. Like, yeah, of course we can. So we talk on the steps near the train station. There's no one else there. It's like near the bike sheddy thing. My daughter's there, so it's just me, her, us three. I had to tell her, can you make her step back a bit because she can hear what we're talking about? So it's like, this is all outrageous, isn't it? How can you feel confident in that situation if you're scared of me, for starters? And then she said, can we put an end to this? And I said, sure, of course we can. I'm not here. I just want normal life. Like, I said, what is it you want? And she said, I want her to live with me. And I said, yeah, but you live so far away. How does that work? I said, I want her with me. I said, well, I'll give you the holidays. You can have all the holidays. All I wanted was my daughter to have a balanced life at school. That's what I wanted. I wanted her to have a good upbringing, And I knew I could do that for her better because, without being rude, I'm more intelligent. I know I can help her at home with homework and things like that. And I thought, I really want to take that. That was serious to me. We'd have the weekends and things. They can have the holidays. It's fine. That's how I saw it. They saw it as like a power struggle, They don't look at things in the deeper sense like that. It's always like, oh, I want it. It's like, oh, for God's sake. So anyway, the attitude I was getting, she didn't say it specifically, but it was quite obvious. If court proceedings ended now, I could have this holiday with her. This is the manipulation I'm against. Meanwhile, her sister, because they're half-sisters, her sister was with her dad for the holidays. I haven't done anything wrong. I'm just fighting for justice. My daughter hasn't done anything wrong. And we're closer in relationship than her sister is to her father. So why treat us so harsh? Because in the end, it was because I didn't agree to stopping the court proceedings and still fighting for custody that I was only allowed, I think, 5 hours with my daughter. That's literally it. They were down. I was allowed to spend 5 hours with her and my family so that she come and visit the family for a bit. And then she had to go back with her mum in tears while her sister stayed there with her dad. These are all the little things, and it's the torment. As she walks away, she's crying, Well, it's just tormenting. So the reality is that I'm not here to say what on his with my daughter in terms of what she decides to do with her life in the future. She may never talk about it publicly for herself. One day, maybe she will. She'll have her own version of events and what she experienced. Because even though we have similar encounters, similar situations, we experience it all differently. You know, I'm standing on the edge fighting for her. She doesn't see everything I'm doing, but she knows I'm doing it. She sees all the things I'm doing, but she's the one stuck with these people. She's the one not being listened to. She's the one being treated as a piece of fodder, really. So her account of everything is going to be far more, I think, emotional. It'll be far more personal. And it will absolutely corroborate everything I say, because I don't lie. So I'm just saying as it is. She may forget the odd thing here and there because life is heavy and you've got enough going through childhood. But like I said, she may decide not to talk upon things at all. But yeah, her mum has been my nightmare in this life. And I don't think anything I come up against in this lifetime now, I'll come up against the odd thing here and there. There may be some big challenges along the way. I think that situation will always be my biggest obstacle, the biggest challenge, because of what it meant, the situation involved, and how deep they just kept prodding and prodding to try to get me to bury myself, all because they wanted to start a new life. It's cruel, isn't it, how people behave? Now, look, I'm saying is they may have changed their ways now. They may have changed their attitude. I've blocked them. I don't communicate anymore. I don't talk to them. I don't want to. There's nothing left to say. Now, let's say that relationship isn't working out anymore. Let's say they're tired of the relationship. So maybe they're tired of fighting me so much. No, we're not fighting because we're not talking. Maybe they regret some of the things they've done. Or maybe they don't take accountability. They don't realize how much they did. Because when you just copy what someone's telling you to do, you probably don't know half the things you said you've done, what you've done and what you've said, because you just repeated it back. You literally didn't think for yourself. That was part of their problem. So its accountability becomes hard when you don't even know what the hell you said or done. That's quite interesting in itself. But it's always that case that in the heat of it, they want everything. When their life starts to unravel and it doesn't turn out how they planned, they then have to reflect upon the life they had and realize how far they blew it up. So you didn't need to do all that. Why couldn't we have just been amicable? That's why I talk upon it. And that's why I mention in my books. I just want people, especially when you get separated parents, just try to take a moment, a few extra breaths. You don't have to like someone, but you don't have to destroy them either. You know, it's all about just rebuilding your life. If you go separate ways, it's like split things evenly. Don't be so spiteful. Stop being so like, I should have everything. Try and be as fair as you can. Because effectively, you're going to have to rebuild. Don't get jealous when someone gets in a relationship. I wasn't jealous when they got in a relationship. Of course, it hurt at first because you're going through a process where you still have huge feelings for them. But they've reached a point where a switch just flipped. I saw how much she was hurting me, but really by the suffering to my daughter, it was getting too much for me. When I kept seeing her get hurt and coming to me upset, and how cruel it genuinely was. When I say upset, you don't realize how deep that cruelness is. Like, that's cruel. She was having to change schools. She had to relocate. She had to leave everyone behind. I'm not probably mentioning that side because I'm so busy focused on the parts where they're digging at me. You look at my daughter, she's saying, I miss my dad. I want to talk to my dad. And they're like, the teachers are like, well, I'll talk to your mum. Talk to the mum. This is all in court documents. But talk to the mum. The mum says, yeah, I'm going to work on it. She doesn't even let me communicate with her. She was supposed to send, at the beginning of the stage, when we first started establishing communication, I sent a letter and then she sent one in response. She kept saying she was too busy to respond. How can you be too busy to send a bloody letter? She did everything she can to stop the communication with us. And she let my daughter suffer. I would say our daughter, but at this point, is she our daughter? Is she? In all honesty, it's not for me to say. My daughter's 15 now. She's very close to choosing her own decision, making her own decisions. I was always saying, when we was going back to court and all sorts, I said 12, 14. As it got to, when I was thinking about 14, I just realised 16's not far. If the amount of power you give a judge is just crazy. It's crazy. These people shouldn't have the power they have. They make terrible decisions and people's lives get ruined. So in my head, I'm thinking if she can just survive, because it's not living at this point. It's just it's surviving. If she can just survive through that, then she can come home naturally and things. And people have had long enough to try to make her life happy. And if they haven't done it, they've only got themselves to blame then. Then my daughter doesn't have to feel bad for changing her life and deciding a different fate, you know. So 15 in less than a month. Near enough a month. In a month, she's 15. So after that, we've only got a year left, haven't we, until she's 16. Then our life can re-begin. And these people will have to look on and think everything they did, was it truly worth it? Because you can't rewrite the past. You can't just make peace and act like everything's fine now. Because that's the way people behave, you know. Let's say they lose it. Let's say my daughter chooses, she comes home to me. They get jealous, but they realize they've lost everything. Now they want to be my friend to try to stay fair and kind and things. That's none of my. Yeah, I've got no interest in that shit. I'm not interested in breaking their relationship. She wants to spend time with them. Spend time with them. I always said that. That's not going to change throughout my life. It's not my relationship with them. As long as if you feel safe enough to be with them, fine. You know, that's what that comes down to. But yeah, it's not really my concern, is it? But it's just I just think it's ridiculous how people behave, and then after they're surprised by other people's reactions to it. But I'm not someone. The one thing with me is I'm not someone that lets people go. I don't forget anything. Yeah, it doesn't happen. So best thing people can do with me if you intend to cause havoc is don't. Just don't, because I'll talk about it for the rest of my life. Because something will trigger in my head, and I've got to talk about that because it's going to help someone. And it might be something you did for a moment, and you think, "Oh, I wish I hadn't done that." Well, it's probably going to be put in a book, and it probably have me talking about it later. So you might regret it in the future, but it still happened, and it's still part of my journey. So try not to have any negative moments upon my journey. That'd be a good start, I think. But as you can see, I've been through a lot, and it only says part of that story. Of course, if you read the books, you get more of a gist. I may have gone deeper than I realised. I don't really know. There's so many nuances to it, you know. There's so many variants to this story. I kid you not. But in the end, all I was ever doing was trying to do the right by my daughter. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to be all like self-righteous. It's just that I was doing everything for her, whereas they were doing everything to beat me. So the angles were different. I'm focused 100% on my daughter. They're focused on destroying my life. So they weren't looking at like you destroyed me or you tried to hit me, you tried to hurt me. It's like you're hurting her. You tried to stop the contact with her because you know it's going to hurt me. Well, then she's not seeing me. So she's upset. So you're isolating her. You're alienating her from her parent. Well, how do you think she's going to react? And I was trying to help them, make them see it, but they weren't seeing it. With me, it was always, what does my daughter need? She needs both parents. So that's how I was always behaving. It was always a case of what is her needs today? What does she want? What does she need? And that's all the decisions I kept making. It was like always for her. It was never for me. So it's not me trying to be perfect or act like perfect. It was literally just I'm her parent and I'm doing what I can as her dad. And me talking like I am now, this isn't me being the parent. This is me, someone speaking up through trauma to give other people a voice, really. Because there's going to be people out there who are going through things. I find it really alarming when people take their own lives. I know that's a harsh way of doing, but some people take their own life because of an immediate crisis. But time heals. People fade. You know, the story fades as well. So something can seem really like highlighted at the moment, and it can seem really, really like a hot topic, and it's like really, really everything's caving in on you. But allow the truth to unravel. Sometimes it takes time. Sometimes people have to just lie enough that you finally catch them in a lie, and then the truth makes sense, and then people feel foolish for believing the liars. Then they have to start hiding themselves a bit. So this is where my ex is going to come unstuck. Now, partly my doing, but not with the intention, but you can't help but notice it. I've not used her real name anywhere. I have had photos of my daughter because I'm proud of her. I'm not going to hide my daughter. The real problem all of them involved will have is if I'm in the spotlight more in the future, of course, I'll be spending time with my daughter. Maybe people recognize you together. what if people recognize them together? I can't hide you. You know, I'm just saying, you bring that upon yourself. People bring it upon themselves. You shouldn't have done what you did. So, although it was my biggest challenge in my life, I've overcome it. So that's why I'm not worried about all the other challenges in my life, you know, because if that was my worst nightmare. It was the most personal. There's nothing that could be more personal than that in my life. Doesn't matter. Even if you tap my character, you try and attack me. There's nothing more personal than that moment. And I don't think there'd be anyone that's even any more cruel than these people. Like these are like, I would say these are like Satan's henchmen. That's how I see them. That's what I see them. I just see that as like, that's me and my daughter are like angels, and we've got the Satan's henchmen that, you know, trying to destroy us. Didn't do too well with that one. So anyway, yeah, I've told my story, and it'll be there for the rest of time because it's immortalized through books, at the very least, and of course, video content and whatnot. But so if people are embarrassed about what they did, so maybe you shouldn't have done it. But not that anybody's ever apologized. I've apologized for things I've done in the past because I can hold my hands up and say, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe I went too far with that, because sometimes our messages got really heated, and my daughter would tell me that, you know, like situations happen between you two, like through messages, and she's crying. In all honesty, I didn't care that she's crying because she was giving as good as she got. In all honesty, she's just as heavy with her messaging as I was. I'm not saying I'm like polite. I'm not polite with my message when it comes to my daughter. You know, I'll freaking say what I think. But some people can handle it, some people can't. But if you can't, then don't dish it. You know, don't accuse me of this and that and this and that, and start putting your foot into me, and then expect me to go, "Oh, sorry. I'm going to say what I think of you now." Then, if that's your turn at me, now wait for me to speak on you. And if you're not strong enough to handle it, then don't poke it in the first place. But I say some people just don't have the emotional intelligence, though, so they cross it too far, and that's what the police are for. So people need to be very careful in life because there is slander, you know, and you better be careful in court because it's perjury. Very, very serious. Now, slander only comes into effect if you're telling a lie on someone. So someone might not like you speaking the truth, but it's the truth. I don't lie. So I'm not worried about anyone accusing me of slander because I'll just prove it in court that it's true. You know, and then it just makes you look more of an idiot. So, yeah, when you lie, be very careful. Because there are consequences, of course. And again, that's where it all goes full circle. The bullies get taught a lesson.